Thank you so much for joining us again for Newtopia's Consultant Channel Coffee Series. Again, if you haven't yet got your Starbucks, please do coffee on us, and we're going to settle in for a great chat. My name is Lara Dodo, Chief Commercial Officer at Newtopia, joined with Jeff Ruby, our founder and CEO.
Hey Lara, how are you?
I'm good, how are you, Jeff?
I'm amazing, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the coffee.
Pleasure. Thank you all for joining us today.
So we all know there's a breakdown in human health, and the cost of healthcare gets out of control. It's escalating at a rapid pace.
Yep.
You know, when I listen to the conversation from consultants and large employers out there, it seems that one of the topics that is taking much of the airtime is the discussion of DPP programming.
Yep.
And so today I was hoping that we could really center on two topics around DPP. The one is it DPP or a Newtopia solution? Or could it be a DPP and Newtopia?
Yep.
And the second area there is personalization. Everyone hears about personalization, and our consultants are frustrated because, frankly, we don't really know what it means.
Yep.
So if we can dial it back and maybe even just go through to how did Newtopia even get linked up with CDC, and how did we kind of gel together with DPP?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question, and there's no, I mean, just even with the latest CMS rules that have come out, which we're all probably hearing about or familiar with, there's a lot of focus on diabetes and a lot of focus on the diabetes prevention program, which I should say at the outset, it's an awesome effort that the CDC has undertaken, and it's a really important first step for preventing what now more than 90 million of us either are at risk for, which is a huge issue and has huge cost implications. But I think it's also important to recognize that Newtopia wasn't born as a diabetes prevention program child, in so much as we really were trying and set out in our journey to create the best engagement platform to drive the greatest possible amount of engagement that would drive the most sustainable outcomes possible in this very hyper-personalized way. And we'll talk about that around personalization. And we certainly were aware of the CDC Diabetes Prevention Program for those individuals that we've been targeting around diabetes. But we really built our approach alongside of it, and have found that there is an opportunity for us to connect, and we've actually worked really hard with the CDC to become certified as an alternate diabetes prevention program provider. And the goal there is very much to really work with the content around diabetes prevention, but not be tied into that fixed one-size-fits-all 16-week curriculum. And so I think it's a really important effort, but I think there are definitely some differences, and we can chat more about them for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you for framing that. You know, again, putting myself in kind of the shoes of our consultant community, budget's a factor, right? Everyone's trying to stretch a dollar in multiple directions.
Sure.
That the dialogue of, you know, DPP, I can go to the YMCA, there are different ways to tap into that curriculum. It's a solid curriculum. So I'd be curious to understand a bit on DPP programming. It's broadly available, could be deemed budget effective, but linking that to sustainable outcomes. How do the two gel together?
Yeah, and so I think there's been a really important study that was done evaluating the diabetes prevention program and long-term outcomes for it against either a placebo or drugs, and this was done in early 2000s, and it demonstrated some fairly effective outcomes with regard to the other methodologies approached, and so it's very much been used as the basis for the primary diabetes prevention movement across the United States today. And I'd say an awful lot, if you talk about the state of the art in diabetes prevention, oftentimes it's the DPP. I think what's really important, though, is to recognize that the DPP it's a great starting point. I really think of it as lifestyle 101. Think of it as like taking a term at school, whether it's at college. It's about the same length, 16 weeks, 4 months. You take a term to get really in depth on the right eating, the right activity, the right stress and behavior. You do it with a group, and so there's this great group dynamic. And at the end of that term, the hope is to achieve a meaningful outcome. It's that 5% body weight reduction. and then hopefully that carries on past 16 weeks into 12 months and beyond. But where I worry a lot is that so much of the focus has been placed on scaling DPP, and while I think it's a really good, great starter point, 101, to suggest that the 101 education alone and the 5% achievement at the end of 4 months is going to be the answer to preventing what is this tidal wave of diabetes, which is an even broader metabolic syndrome issue. I'm worried that we're putting our hope in the wrong thing. It's a great place to start. It's a great course. It's a great starting point. But there's a bigger opportunity to link that starting point to each individual, to meet them where they are and make sure that that education becomes part of our daily life, our daily habits, our daily choices. And that's where I think there's an opportunity for programs like us and others to come along that are really moving almost alongside but beyond, to making sure that there's sustainability, that 5% can grow over time, not just remain the same and degrade over 12, 18, 24 months, but in fact this becomes sustainable, because at the end of the day, preventing diabetes is about helping the individual manage to keep this disease away from them, but also helping employers and payers avoid the cost consequences. And if 5% results are not sustainable because you've got a one-size-fits-all curriculum that may produce some short-term outcomes, but they may not be there over the long run, then we've got a short-term fix, a nice Band-Aid, good school, but is it going to be the thing that really leads to long-term outcomes, preventing the onset of this disease, and keeping those costs down over the long run? And that's where I worry.
Well, firstly, it sounds to me like you just described my exercise routine. I bought a discs, and I'm really great, by the way. For 8 weeks, I worked out every day. I did the boot camp the way they explained. And then out-of-town guests came to town.
Right.
Stayed with us for 3 weeks, and that was the end of the program. I'd lost my momentum, and I couldn't get it back. And so I found myself back with a personal trainer who texts me the evening before to remind me about my workout. During the week, she asks me if I've done my exercises at home. And even just looking at that, I kind of think weight loss is a little bit similar, Jeff, where we can get excited about a new program and you diet very quickly, but it's the chance of relapse is high. And so even thinking about DPP and a Newtopia program where we need a little help sometimes to really keep us on the track when life gets bumpy. So I'd love to hear from you. Going back to where we started, is it DPP or Newtopia? What about folks out there who have engaged with the DPP solution, and there's some great solutions out there, and they've kind of got out the starter gates as you described. Now what? Like they've done the 16 weeks, maybe they've finished the year, they've hit 5%, but that relapse is setting in and they're losing traction. How could Newtopia potentially be the and that comes in at that time?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the core premise at Newtopia is to meet people where they are and inspire them to live healthier every day. That meeting them where they are could be pre-diabetes prevention program, never heard of it, never seen it, never participated. It could be, I tried it for a little while, it wasn't working so well for me, and I was looking for something a little bit more personalized. I got sick or something happened in my life in week 4 of the 16-week curriculum and I had to back off, and unfortunately that train keeps rolling no matter what. It's not like it stops. The group doesn't wait for you. So it could be meeting them midway, or it could be, here's my great question, is so what happens after the year is over, right? Your employers are investing in this 1-year diabetes prevention program. Month 13 rolls along. Well, for that individual, where do they go next? They can go back to the wellness programming that's available, not the condition management programming, but unless they've really internalized what they learned in that 4 weeks and then the potential of the maintenance, there's a chance that it could all unravel. And so Newtopia could actually be a post sort of in the next year. How do you take those individuals and have them grow and have that education become something that gets internalized and ultimately become sustainable behavior change as opposed to just a short-term sort of group-based, I'm going to achieve this now, but how do you know it's going to really lasting? And so I think we can meet people where they are at any point, and we've in fact had some experience meeting at-risk individuals who remain still at risk post-DPP and have had phenomenal results.
That's a good segue, because now, I wanted to come back. You spoke earlier on about the cost curve, right? That we know that if we do not put folks onto a healthier trajectory, they are going to get sick, they are going to end up impacting, obviously, their personal lives, family lives, and employer costs, given. So I'm hearing from you, you started on DPP, you get to the end of the year, biometrics come in potentially, and you're still at risk.
Mm-hmm.
What a great place to now say you have the basics, you're committed and focused, time to get that additional personalized level of help. Is that what I'm hearing? Just
Yeah,
put it together.
I mean, absolutely. I think it's a matter of, for some employers who have made the investment in DPP, I applaud them. I think bravo, you've now put a baseline in place in a meaningful way to begin that lifestyle 101 for those employees at risk, and for many that may be enough to meaningfully reduce those metabolic risk factors and reduce costs. But now that that investment has been made, are you simply just going to leave it to chance or hope and cross your fingers that that's going to be lasting? Because these are your most vulnerable and potentially most expensive employees who move from that at risk to full-blown chronic disease. And so there's the potential for Newtopia to come in, either if it's been successful, maybe it hasn't been so successful, but to come in with that, again, that hyper-personalized N of 1 approach to make sure that the 101 becomes lasting lifestyle change and ultimately is really meaningful to each individual. I'd say, again, what our focus is not so much in teaching the curriculum. That's great. It's a starting point, but it's for each individual, how do we build the confidence in them to be able to make those choices each and every day? How do we build up their personal integrity and their confidence that they can keep those promises to themselves of what's being offered there? And until you deliver that one by one and really get into someone's personal circumstances, I don't know of another way to deliver sustainable behavior change that it isn't N of 1. And so I do think there's great opportunity for us to play alongside, whether it's a company that hasn't adopted a DPP, where we, for those individuals at risk, we have the certification as the alternate DPP, so we can certainly do that. Or for companies that have, and either it's been not so successful, or they're looking for the next step, we could play all of those roles.
I think that's great to hear. Something else as you're chatting through the different roles we can play that's front and center mind for me is every week I'll have several conversations with large employers who say, how quickly are you going to be able to move our population to a space where they're healthier and their cost curve has changed? And the key word is sustainable.
Yeah.
Because when we look at proxies of weight loss, there are programs out there that can boot camp you for a bikini, right? Mm-hmm. In a couple of weeks, you'll look fantastic.
Yeah.
But as soon as your vacation's done, the old habits come back, and before you know it, you're back into an unhealthy cycle. So discussion is very much, what is your agenda and what is your mandate? Is it truly about improving sustainable outcomes with a sustainable cost saving? And that, unfortunately, is not quick and easy.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a tough job for our consultants out there, where it's really digging in with your large employers to understand budgets that are available, but where they're being allocated, and the reality that year one with Newtopia specifically, we know we have proven out our RCT with that now. We know there's a 2x ROI year one. But that's not going to mean you're going to show rapid weight loss in month 1, month 2, month 3, because we're changing human behavior, which is hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I'm terrible with exercise. I need my coach to hold me accountable, or I'm not doing it. And most of us are that way with things that are challenging, whether it's getting on top of our eating or whatever it may be. So going from that idea that this is sustainable, it's going to take hard work, there's no easy button. So the 16 weeks is a great starter point, but we may need more intervention, right, which brings up personalization.
Yeah, right? and also just if we're going to be truly honest about explaining where Newtopia differentiates and is different, I think it's important to note that if you stack us up, sort of the car guide style against Newtopia versus a traditional DPP, in-person or virtual, at 16 weeks, I'm going to bet you that we are not going to be as effective as fast, because our approach is not to try and get someone to 5% as quickly as possible in that time frame. And so us against the traditional DPP at 16 weeks, those outcomes may be stronger. Where we shine and where we really differentiate ourselves is look at us at 12 months, look at us at 18 months, and then look at us at 24 months. That's where the differences are vast, because our approach is how do we get to know that individual, make those small changes and build their confidence, as opposed to the older style diet or short term, I'm going to do something and get to that finish line, but not have a clue whether that's sustainable or even if I can manage it myself. And again, you brought up the RCT, where we really differentiate is at that 24-month mark, our average body weight reduction at the end of 24 months doubled from 5% to 10%, which means it was progressive. It wasn't, let's cross our fingers and hope that 5% is going to last after 4 months to 12 months and beyond. It was actually, we're putting the building blocks in place for sustainable but progressive outcomes. Let's at 12 months move from 5% and actually double it up to 10% body weight reduction, moving from just over 10 pounds to over 22 pounds of average weight loss. No one else is demonstrating that today. And I think that's the state of the art. I think that's what this is all about. And so it's not taking a swipe at the diabetes prevention program. It's actually just looking at what are the true ingredients to sustainable behavior change and lasting cost savings.
Well said, and I think, in a future session we should really include some of the life testimonials of our participants who, beyond the weight loss, beyond the fact that they're fitting into clothing from high school, it's the fact that they have energy for kids and family and a real day-to-day quality of life issues that are changed on a sustainable basis. The entire future is completely shifted.
Great.
So let's come back to personalization.
Sure.
Feedback I frequently get from consultants and employers is everyone is personalized, right? So come on, what are we really doing? And it struck me actually a few weeks ago that as soon as there's a physical person in the picture, firms are calling this a personalized approach. So can we tap into, when we say Newtopia is a personalized program, what do we even mean? Because everyone's personalized, Jeff.
Yeah, no, so there are a couple words that I really don't like. I don't like the word personalized, and I don't like the word wellness, because they don't mean anything anymore. And I agree, in this prevention area, personalized has become, I know your first name and put in an email, to we're going to personalize whether or not you receive the program via in-person or online, and now that's personalized. We've adopted hyper-personalized, which even that has become fairly usurped, because I think everyone got tired of it. But it's really, it's that direction of N of 1. It's building the entire experience around that individual at risk, every element of it, so that it is completely directed at them. It's this belief that the answer to sustainable behavior change lies in each of us, every one of us. But the key is we have to understand each person in fundamental ways. For us, that's a little genetic, that's behavioral, and then take that understanding to shape an experience and build an experience that's going to be meaningful to each of us. And so every element of that, whether it's the high touch, the inspirator support, whether it's the technology that we use or don't use for each individual, whether it's the gaming and or social community that comes together, every element of that is designed for each individual. That's what we think and feel around hyper-personalized and N of 1. And again, the only way that we can achieve that sustainable outcome.
If I were a consultant, I'd be putting up my hand right now saying, that sounds like more industry buzzwords. Gamified, high touch, smart touch, nuts and bolts. What are we going to do? We obviously feel very strongly about it, but for our consultants out there, in very simple language, our personalized approach really comes down to our inspirators in many senses. But can we maybe even elaborate a little bit on what it is about our inspirators that make this a personal approach, right down to the personality element, because I think that's a crucial magic ingredient that sometimes we completely drive right past.
Yeah, so I'd say the objective here is we don't want to bring the at-risk individual to the mountain. That is the classic one-size-fits-all. There's a solution, a curriculum, you're here, and we are going to bring you here. Our belief is that we are going to bring the mountain to the person. And everything that we do, every element of how we design is all around that thinking. So get rid of the gobbledygook that I mentioned before, it's that. The key also is a belief, though, that humans are important to that, and that there's something very special about being able to see someone and communicate with someone whose sole job it is to inspire. So it's not about advanced data analytics and AI and bots and video. Quite frankly, that scares the hell out of me. I don't know too many consumers that want to know that they're being inspired by advanced analytics and AI and bots. It's about finding the right individual and using the right behavior science. Just how do we find the right match? That's what this personality matching that we do. And then making sure that you have someone in your corner who you can meet with whenever you need to offer that support, that guiding, that inspiration, and ultimately to hold accountable to these small weekly, daily goals to build that confidence. And it's a huge, huge driver of our success.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So as we look at closing up and opening up for questions, and thank you to those of you who have been sending questions in, we started off saying there's a breakdown in human health. Costs are rising as a result for our employer community. We said that it could be a DPP and Newtopia, and we spoke about a lot actually about personalization. But if I'm a consultant out there, I need to go back to work now, and I need to hopefully go and affect change and create opportunities for employers and employees alike. What do I need to take away with me, Joe? Top 2 or 3 items.
I'd say the key is organizations need to focus on their at-risk employees in a way that they likely haven't in the past. There's been this tradition of condition management and wellness, and I think the realization that roughly 50% of those employees aren't being well served by either of those is important, and that they need a very specific engagement method and approach to manage down their risk. So one, the time to focus on prevention is now, not just for diabetes, for the entire metabolic spectrum, heart disease, stroke, clinical obesity, NASH, diabetes, the whole range, is a real critical takeaway. The second is whether it's an educational 101 approach like DPP, or it's something a little bit more hyper-personalized like Newtopia, both are a great start. And the beauty is that it's not a one or the other. There is the opportunity, whether it starts with a Newtopia or it starts with DPP, to be able to keep investing in those individuals and keep investing in that cost savings and probably the meatiest part of your employee base to be able to adjust the cost curve.
Got it. You know, just as you were chatting through, I was looking at some of the questions coming through, and I actually want to start with one of the more recent ones. You mentioned NASH. What is NASH?
So you know, NASH has become it's a big issue. It's really very simply put, it's fatty liver disease, and it's again part of this spectrum of metabolic disorders. As that breakdown of human health, as those 5 risk factors start to go out of range, you're starting to see manifestations in clinical obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and NASH, with estimates about 10% of the population having this disorder. Significant, big number. Pharma has been all over trying to create some drugs for this, but there's opportunity just within what we do to help huge preventive element.
I'd be curious, NASH is another colloquial term. Would that be skinny fat?
A little, I mean, a little bit, because it doesn't necessarily manifest itself in just obesity. It's not, you or I could have NASH because of issues, so it's not necessarily directed. It's unhealthy living, but not necessarily only weight related.
And the risk factors to pick up NASH are the same as for the rest of the...
I mean, largely it's lifestyle. It's largely lifestyle induced and lifestyle related, and it very much ties to those 5 metabolic risk factors.
So last question, because there's a lot of questions out there, but I'm going to summarize a few. Everyone's interested in driving engagement, the Holy Grail. Everyone needs to look at an ROI. Cost comes up. I'm going to summarize this question. How do we convince employers, I'm going to maybe frame it correctly, to invest money to save money? Because that's sometimes, how do we take budget, I guess, is the question, out of a wellness program? Folks aren't getting sick, but we know if we don't do anything, they're going to be ill. So any guidance or advice from what you've seen?
I mean, based on our experience, it's the old spend money to save money has been around for a long time, and there's lots of commentary that I can't afford to spend more to save this. And so finding ways to make it easier for employers to, one, recognize the value, that 2x ROI that you talked about. Within a year, this pays for itself, and groups like us go at risk. It becomes a bit of a no-brainer. But also finding creative ways to make sure that the spend is coming out of the right buckets. It doesn't have to be entirely out of wellness. There could be some combination of claims wire, so putting some of that expense into the medical side, which is what we're doing now more and more to alleviate an employer having to figure out how to just do this strictly through a wellness budget, which isn't as proportionally large as a medical spend. So that's another area. But I think at the end of the day, it's being able to prove and then demonstrate through book of business outcomes that in fact this is happening for employers, and it's not just a hope, it's not just hope. It's actually, this is real, and these are real financial benefits that they can accrue.
Thank you for sharing that. We're out of time. Thank you so much. And wrapping up, for the folks who sent in those cost questions, find an internal champion, get to the right decision makers, because someone who understands the true impact of an unhealthy staff or crew will be very interested in the ROI available for proactive investment in disease prevention. And call on Newtopia. We're happy to help. Great ideas. Thank you, Jeff, and thanks for tuning in. Until next time. And don't forget, grab a coffee if you haven't yet.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.